Week 17 Viva. How did the Norman ascendancy impact English society? Although nearly everyone learns about the Battle of Hastings, many don't realize how dramatically the Norman conquests shaped English society. In reality, the Norman conquests fundamentally transformed English society by replacing the Anglo-Saxon power structure and culture with a Franco-Scandinavian one. My first point is that the Norman conquest restructured society with Frankish-style castles, Romanesque churches, and monasteries. Secondly, the rule of French-speaking Norman rulers transformed the English language. And thirdly, Norman feudalism fundamentally changed the English political system. My first point is that the Norman conquest restructured the culture with Frankish-style castles, Romanesque churches, and monasteries. These emerged as the centers of Anglo-Norman society. The Normans built Mottle and Bailey castles throughout England. This sent the message that these Normans were here to stay. Traditionally, these castles had a stone keep called a dungeon, which would be on top of a hill. The base of the hill would be there would be a fenced-in area, which would develop into the village. These massive Norman castles were built for defense and to discourage rebellions, because if you think about it, there were a lot more Anglo-Saxon people than there were Normans ruling over them. Castle building provided employment and protection for the lower classes, and towns developed surrounding the castles, which formed markets and improved the economy. These castles had many advantages to the Roman lords as well. According to Ella Armitage, quote, "Small castles of the Norman kind were easily and cheaply constructed and defensible by a small number of men," unquote. Many castles were built by Norman second sons who wanted to have their own kingdoms. One such son was Sir John de Courcy. He went to Ireland as part of a larger Norman invading force, but however, soon he became greedy and decided to go rogue. He conquered many lands with his own men and no permission from the English king. He built the castles of Carrickfergus in Ulster and the castle of Dundrum. King Richard eventually became displeased by all his conquering activities, and he captured Sir John and the king made another nobleman, Sir Hugh de Lacy, Earl of Ulster, and he was also given all of Sir John de Courcy's land. Ironically, once de Courcy brought his army back to Ireland, he actually had his castle of Dundrum destroyed in attempts to keep it from enemy hands. The Normans also brought Romanesque architecture and with them as they built churches, cathedrals, and monasteries. The churches and the cathedrals were symbols of authority, just like their castles. They also demonstrated their piety and the Normans' God-given right to rule. Christian Normans also generously built the beautiful cathedrals and monasteries. Monasteries became centers of education, healthcare, as well as providing other services to their communities. My second point is that the conquest of England by French-speaking Norman rulers transformed the English language. The Norman invasion transformed English from a Germanic language that most of us who speak modern English can't understand any of, basically, into Middle English, which is more understandable to the modern person. English is now a fusion of 3 languages, Germanic, English, and French. This is why English is one of the largest and most complex languages. According to Geoff Baxel, quote, the total number of words in modern English is estimated to be between 400,000 and 600,000, and many of them have more than one meaning, unquote. Alternatively, English, and this is one of the reasons why it's so large, is that it has many duplicate words to describe one thing. This phenomenon is due to there being a term for something coming from each of the 3 root languages, and sometimes more than one, obviously. We can see this phenomena when we look at the different words for meat in the English language. For instance, we have cow, and then we have beef, and we have swine, and then we have pork. This happens for things besides meat too, like the different words sweat and perspire. This is because when the Normans invaded, they brought their own words over, especially for animals and food. These can be compared to the more common terms from Anglo-Saxon English. My third point is that Norman feudalism led to changes in the political system and helped to pave the way for documents like the Magna Carta and institutions like Parliament. When William the Conqueror invaded in 1066, he introduced a new kind of feudalism to England. He confiscated the land from the Saxon lords and gave it to members of his own family, Norman lords, and to the church. The Norman barons were given land in exchange for providing military service to the king. When William granted land to a baron, he did this in an important ceremony. The baron would kneel before the king and say, quote, "I become your man," unquote. He would then place his hands on the Bible and promise to remain loyal to the king for the rest of his life. The formation of a powerful landed aristocracy led to some significant political developments in England. The Magna Carta, or Great Charter, was issued by King John in 1215. It established that everyone, including the king, was subject to the law. The Magna Carta remains a cornerstone for the English Constitution and paved the way for the American Bill of Rights and other constitutional documents throughout the world. The word Parliament was first used in 1236, and it referred to a gathering of prominent Norman knights and barons who were summoned by the king to meet twice a year. Over time, the institution would begin to glean power from the monarchy. In conclusion, although it is not often taught in school, the Norman conquest fundamentally transformed English society by replacing the Anglo-Saxon power structure and culture with a Franco-Scandinavian one. First, it restructured society by bringing new architecture to England. Secondly, it transformed the English language. And thirdly, it changed the English political system. Thank you.